That's good.
Good evening. This is the Pepperell Board of Health meeting of 5/16/2017. We're being recorded by Pepperell Community Media and also by our board secretary this evening, and also being watched by people at home. So thanks for joining us this evening. And the first item I need to attend to is the acceptance of the minutes for 5/2/17.
I make a motion, we accept the minutes as written.
Do I have any questions, corrections?
I need a second first.
I'll second the motion.
All right, I have a second.
Now we can.
Now do I have any second or questions? I'm sorry.
None.
None. None. Hearing none. We have approval to accept the minutes of 5/2/17
Yes.
as stated. Do I, all in favor say aye?
Aye.
Thank you.
And we have a appointment this evening to discuss manure guideline regulations that were addressed at a previous meeting. And Robin, hi, thanks for joining us this evening. And say your name for everybody.
Okay, so I would like to request that we put off voting on it tonight because I don't feel like I gave some of the people I sent it to enough time to get back to me. And I also kind of came up with more questions when I made some of these changes that I'm not totally comfortable with.
Okay.
So one of the things was, you know, we had people here before talking about the commercial farmers and the right to farm bylaw. So, and I was thinking that maybe these regulations should only pertain to non-commercial farms. But then I thought, how do I know if someone is a non-commercial farm? I'm not sure there's a way for me to tell that unless I just go by what they, you know, them saying that they are. Do you know what I mean? Because I don't know if,
Like, what constitutes a commercial farm?
right, I don't know if they have to be registered with the town or with the Department of Agriculture or what. So otherwise, somebody could say, well, I'm a commercial farm, I sell eggs, and get themselves excluded. So that's why I need to find out how we determine in a way that you can know is true, whether it's a commercial farm or not. So that's one of the thoughts that I came up with. And then one of the other things is, you know, Kayleen had me add in that the manure pile can't impact publicly owned drainage systems because of some other new rule for storm drain runoff or something. But then it started me thinking, because one of the comments that the Farm Bureau had made when Dave Sears asked about
This
this
is the Board of Health.
Hi.
was that the regulations went beyond our authority. So it kind of started making me wonder, well, we have that in there, so is that going beyond our authority? Because I can't enforce that. So that it started me thinking a little bit about some of that stuff. Is there stuff in here that's, you know, that I'm supposed to enforce, or how am I supposed to handle it if I see it not being adhered to? Am I supposed to
report.
contact the Conservation Commission if it's polluting wetlands, or am I,
The
what am I
DPW
supposed to
or,
do?
yes, I understand what you're
So those
saying.
are some of the questions that, I started thinking about as I added more detail to some of these requirements. And then like the last time they had,
I wonder if we can help
They-
these people.
the farmers wanted composting added to the list of ways to handle manure, which, is fine for the commercial farms or the bigger farms that have the equipment to properly compost. I'm just worried that we're gonna get in a situation where somebody is gonna argue that they're composting their manure pile that's really just sitting there, and that they turn a couple of times, because I don't feel like I have a clear definition of what we mean by composting.
Right. How big can the pile be? How big gets
Yeah,
to be
I
so
mean,
big that it's unmanageable unless you have heavy equipment.
if you have a big pile, right, you need a tractor to turn it. I
Right.
mean, if somebody has, their vegetables, the garden stuff that they compost and they throw some manure in there, that's fine. But if you have a pile and you're composting it, you really do need to have something to turn it more than a shovel. Or it's really just a manure pile that you take a couple of shovels full and throw once in a while. Do you know what I mean?
I-
So I'm just trying to
understand.
not get us to, take out our ability to try to make people not pile a lot of manure on smaller properties. But if you have a big property, and you have a tractor, you can turn it and you get rid of it, and
It's different.
it's different. So,
But commercial composting, where you're actually selling it, agricultural grade compost, that's a
Right.
whole nother
I mean,
world.
that's a different,
Then they have to be, under those guidelines, so,
right.
of what would be
So,
necessary.
that's why I just kind of wanted to maybe get your input on composting, or a way we could word it, or to, I don't know, make it on a smaller scale. I mean, because that kind of defeats my no more than 1 to 6 months of manure if they're going to turn around and say they're composting it.
So you're saying that maybe it should be limited to the size, the amount of livestock, the size of the area that the people own, like if you're having llamas, alpacas, like you're not having a herd of 100, or, where do you draw the line? How many animals, how many piles, how many,
Yeah, and it's like I've avoided getting into like acreage and that kind of stuff, but I think that it still needs to be some sort of limit on the type of backyard composting. Like maybe just for your personal use, not for
commercial?
sales, although I don't know, because there might be some hobby farms that sell their manure, and it's like I don't want to limit people, but I just don't want people saying, when I see a 6-foot-high manure pile on the property line, I don't want to say, oh, I'm composting that, because they really should be hauling it away.
Well,
Perhaps
that's
it-
why we're here.
Right.
See, if you have a problem with it,
Right.
and you're not getting cooperation, then
Robin, it would show signs of being composted though, right? It would have to have moved of some sort. It would have
Well,
to.
I mean, it is
show
going to break
signs
down
that it's
sitting there.
been-
If it sits there long enough, it's going to compost
Right,
itself.
right.
But
That's a long time.
Maybe there should be a definition of composting.
right, well, I put best practices, but like we were trying to figure out
Whose best practices?
what is best practices. And, at one point I did have a link in there to the Department of Agricultural's guidelines on composting, but that's for like a commercial process, and it gets into a lot of technical stuff of, nitrogen levels and, all kinds of stuff like
Anaerobic
that.
and aerobic states and.
So,
level of the
so that one I just wanted to maybe give a little more thought to.
my wife does composting, but she has a compost that she bought at the Home Depot. It's a
Right.
compost.
Little bin.
That's backyard composting.
Right,
Now, if you're gonna be a farmer composting, like you said, you gotta have a tractor with a scoop. and
Right.
You're gonna compost.
I mean, I have a
That's the
small,
difference between the two.
I have a small pile that I
compost.
compost. Most of my manure I haul away.
Mhm.
I put right into my trailer, but I do have a little pile that I keep for my garden, but I turn it with the tractor because I have a tractor, but,
Right, yeah.
you know.
But there's a difference between a compost pile and a pile of manure, I think, you know.
Right, it has
Yeah.
to be an obvious
There
difference,
has to
yeah.
be a difference.
I mean, if
between
it's
the two.
growing all kinds of stuff, it's obviously not being turned.
Right. If you're using it for composting and putting it on your lawn, that pile would disappear in, you know, no time.
Right, it should
It
shrink.
would be shredded, you know,
Even just
spread
the
over
part
the-
of breaking down should make it smaller over time.
Right.
And you should have two,
Mhm.
because you should have the one that's composting, and then you should have the current one. And then
So-
when that one's all compost, you use it. in
How do
your
you keep,
compost.
how do you keep all that data, you know, do you like snap a pile of the compost, you know, snap a picture and then go by later on in
Yeah.
a few months and
So
the pile hasn't really changed since that last,
Yeah, so I think I need to work a little more on
yeah.
that
I don't have a.
definition.
I don't have an older original copy. It would have been, it would be nice to redline it so you know what the changes are. But did you, on number 4, under manure regulations, did you add the word ideally, or was that there before? Ideally, no more than 1 to 6.
I didn't change that, that was
So that
there.
was, because one of the gentlemen at the meeting that we had mentioned the 6 months as worrisome to him. And I got thinking about that. And, you know, some farmlands or pasture lands or agricultural land is wet in the spring if you have a heavy snowfall.
Right,
So you might not be in a position to drive a tractor with a manure spreader in
well,
a 6-month time.
that's why I gave it to 6 months, because, like, I kind of went by these, like, could I do this? So, I haul my manure away until everything freezes, and then my dump trailer doesn't dump anymore because it just freezes into it.
No, but I'm talking about a person perhaps who has a herd of cattle.
She had what?
Has a herd of cattle,
Cattle?
of cows.
Oh,
But now you,
And they stockpile that manure in the winter,
right,
and then in the spring they want to, you know, put it on their fields. I
Right.
think maybe in some winters, a 6-month, more than 6 months may have gone by before they can get out in the field.
I wouldn't think so. Well, I mean, I suppose, yeah, if you don't haul it away
Oh, good.
once September hits, then yeah, you're gonna have more than 6 months. But if you're doing something with it up until you can't, which is like December, and you're talking June, things should be dried by June.
But you have to plow it in, right? You just can't leave it on the ground.
You mean when they spread it?
Yeah.
no? Do they just leave it on top if they're gonna, if it's
Well,
like a topper?
It depends
it's-
what they're
if
putting
it's-
it on. I
if
mean, if
it's
you're putting
broke-
it on your pastures, you're just gonna let it spread. It just,
Right.
the thing just flings it so it spreads out and it dries.
Like gardeners does down there.
If you're doing it on your cornfield or your vegetable fields, then you're gonna plow it in.
Right.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you're putting it on pastures, it just flings it and it dries out, and that's why
It dries
it's
in
a
the
way to
sun.
treat it.
To whom did you send the latest?
Huh?
To whom did you send the latest version?
Well, I sent it to Dave Sears, who forwarded it to the Agricultural Advisory Board for me, and then I also sent it to Toby Tyler, because he had, the horse question about the turnout and stuff.
And how about the president of the Horse Association?
I didn't send it to her. There wasn't any drastic changes that would affect them. I mainly just sent it to the people who were here and I made changes for, because the other things, the couple horse owners were all right with, because,
But I personally would like them to have an updated copy because we
Yeah.
have made changes.
well, I was hoping to not vote on it tonight, so I would definitely give it to them before we would.
And I think that's a
your-
reasonable request. In fact, it makes me happy to hear you say that. And I'm wondering if we should weigh in with the Conservation Commission and give them a copy and ask for comments.
Right, so I
The
added,
DPW? What do
I
you
did
think?
add a line that that basically people need to follow other town regulations, thinking, because another thing it started me thinking about when I was talking about the shelter is that isn't really my jurisdiction, that's more of a building department jurisdiction, although I'm requiring them to have it, and I'm saying my basic goal is that I don't want it to collapse.
Right.
So I had added, of a solid material that will not collapse under snow and wind loads common to the area, because that's what I've noticed, a lot of people get those canvas sheds from Home Depot and call it a barn.
Yeah.
And then they collapse in the
Blow
winter,
away.
and then the animal goes the rest of the winter without
Shelter.
a shelter. But,
Doesn't that have a definition though, the barn? Isn't there a definition for, it has to be a, it has
there's
to
a
be
lot of
a,
people, though, I think somewhere in the building code, there's a thing that says you can build like a 10 by 10 structure without a building permit.
right, under 200 square feet, I think it is. I'm not certain. but
Something like that.
Something like
So that's
that, but-
what a lot of people will probably put up out in their paddocks for their horses or something.
But it still would have to be some kind of footings or, where the thing isn't gonna blow away.
Well,
Your little Home Depot
would
things blow
think-
away off your patio in a big windstorm.
I mean, you
So,
would think it
yeah.
would have some kind of footing, but not necessarily.
Like
I
a
mean,
cinder block or something that you're gonna put
Yeah. So
the walls
you'd be
up
surprised
on.
what people build.
Yeah, true.
And it depends what it is and what it's for. I mean, I have a little running shed that's 4 feet tall, and it's 4 feet, like 6 feet by 6 feet.
Mm-hmm.
And it's for the miniature horse. It's
Right.
small, and
It's
it sits
small.
on cinder blocks.
Cinder blocks, that's what
Yeah.
I mean. Not
You
just
know,
sitting
but
on the
it's-
ground and,
I can take it apart and move it if I
Mm-hmm.
need to, and it's not, so I don't consider it a permanent
right,
structure, but it's a solid.
but solid structure, I guess is what I mean. That's a
Right,
good,
so-
that's a good word.
Yeah, so that's why I was just starting to think is like, as I got more detailed, that I needed to try not to be the Conservation Commission and the building inspector.
Yeah, because then when you get into, the fowl, they can be in a little hoop house or something out on a lawn.
Right.
So you can't, then you have to start breaking it down between the animals and what kind of shelter is for what.
Right,
It's a
well,
little
that's why I
bit
tried to,
too confusing.
I tried to be general and say, and it must consist of an appropriate type shelter for the quantity and type of livestock. So I was trying to make that general, because like you said, a lot of people have those chicken tractors.
Right.
Well, that's, I mean, it's like I have specific cases for why I put some of these things in, that I just wanted to have something, because I see a lot of those canvas sheds that people will try to say, oh yeah, I have a shelter. But I know what happens to them when winter comes.
Right.
So, but then when you start getting more specific, then you start getting people raising questions, like, because their shed might not be that, or it might not quite fit, but it might be perfectly fine. So I didn't know what you
When they're,
guys wanted me to do on stuff like that.
when they're canvas like that and they get wet,
With what?
when they're canvas and they start to get wet and
They're
Sit
pretty
in-
waterproof.
Are they?
They just can't handle the snow.
they can't handle the load.
Right,
I
so
see.
if you've got plenty of space and you go out there and get the snow off it and away from it every time, it'll probably last you a few years. But, the other issue with it is it's probably fine for, a goat or a sheep. But you put a horse in that and they get tangled up in that, they're gonna get injured because they're gonna rip it apart.
Right.
And, so I don't like them for horses, although people do try to use them for horses, or they'll temporarily use them. And, but a horse goes in there and rolls over and gets his foot caught in the,
Oh,
the framework, it's not gonna stay put,
right. Could really be
And-
bad.
then it's gonna be lethal. So, Yeah, so I don't want those kinds of sheds, but, yeah, so that was the reason that I was trying to put some kind of specific details of a shed. So I just have to find the balance between not telling them how to build it,
Right.
but telling them
Structurally,
what I need,
what you would suggest
what type of.
for a structure.
Yeah, I mean, they are, a lot of these, when we first did them, they were guidelines, so it was more of a suggestion, but now that we're trying to make them regulations, then it's becoming a rule and not a
Yes.
suggestion.
Regulations. Mhm.
I think that you worded that very appropriately. You used must consist of an appropriate type of shelter. And you're not making it so narrow that
Right.
you're going to outprice a lot of the people that can't afford to put up a shelter with a foundation and
No,
everything
yeah,
else,
yeah,
you know.
no.
Well, I mean, and
I
it's a
think
lot of
that's-
portable shelters. I mean, those Amish sheds, people drag them around to different fields. I mean, there's different things you can do. But, you know, you do have to spend a little money. If you're gonna have animals, you have to house them
Right.
properly and take care of them properly and, you know,
Depending on how many animals too, you know.
yeah, I mean, I'm hoping that with these, it'll make people at least look at them before they get an animal and say, wow, I have to do all this. Instead of getting an animal and figuring it out on the fly.
Pony and then say, what am I gonna do, right?
Because people tend to do that. They don't think it through, and
Right.
so, anyways, I'm rambling now.
I think you've worked very, very hard
That's
on that.
So, what we need to do is make a list of the organizations you wanna put this before and have them add to it,
Review it.
review it, and make any comments they may have.
Well, I don't know if that would get too,
Well, like,
too stringent, because
Well, we don't have to.
obviously, you know, you say to the building inspector, you know, the building department, they're gonna want it to be square and on a 4-foot foundation
Right, right.
and, you know, made out of, you know, shingles and
We don't have
2x6s.
to accept their comments, we just have to
right.
get what their ideas are.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of why I put in here that, you know, that I don't want my regulations don't preclude the necessity to follow other regulations, because I don't want
Like what you were
people to
saying.
say, oh, well, the stable regulations say I can build this shed,
Right.
you know, or they say I can compost this manure, and then the Conservation Commission says you can't compost that, or the building department says you can't build that. So it's not up to me, I say you should do it, but you need to meet them, and that's why I added that line. So I kind of like that line. It's mainly just telling who's a commercial operation, because I excluded them. And then, should I have excluded them? Does the right to farm bylaw cover enough of the issues? And I guess a manure complaint for a farm, how would you handle that
Well,
if
who's
you
to
have the
say
right
we're
to
not
farm
opening-
bylaw?
Who's to say we're not opening up a can of worms and they're gonna look at this, they're gonna see this anyways.
Right, because I mean, like, even the place on Elm Street, I don't know if that's a business. It could be a business, and if it is a business, then is that covered by the right to farm bylaw? You know, I don't know. I mean, I know that, you know, they have horses, but does she raise them and sell them as a business and claim the income? And
Well, she's definitely getting paid to keep them.
well, no, I didn't say, the right to farm doesn't say it has to be a profitable business.
But it does, you state, it says here about that it applies to commercial operations.
The right to farm
Right to
is for,
farm
is-
declaration.
that's for commercial
For co-
operations.
commercial operations. So what you're trying to determine here is the regulations for the non-commercial farming
Right,
operations and horse
but we also have to
stables
be
and-
prepared if we do have a manure complaint about a commercial operation.
But then couldn't
But
you
don't-
go to the state
Right.
guidelines or
Don't they-
regs?
Well,
Enforcement?
Don't
yeah, I know,
they-
that's one of the questions I guess I should ask the agricultural committee.
Yes.
Because then they fall under a different set of rules and regulations. So instead of the complaint coming to, as us as a board, then it would have to go on to them, the
Yeah.
state, who manages that end of the operations, maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, so I think like as we delved into it and added to it, it's kind of raised some other questions about, you know, how much we can enforce. So that's why I wanted to just take a little more time and maybe hear back from the agricultural committee people and,
So what you're saying is when we went from guidelines to regulations, we opened up a can of worms.
right, well, because guidelines are a suggestion and regulations are a rule, so it's different, because you can suggest something and people don't have to do it, but if you make it a rule, then people have to do it. You know, and then the other question you need to figure out is if it's gonna be, current places are grandfathered, or, you know, where does this start? Or does everybody have to, like, meet these requirements, you know, within a certain period? Or are the places that already exist excluded from meeting the requirements?
I've been doing this for 40 years.
Right. You know, I mean, people are gonna say, my manure pile has been there for 40 years, and now you want me to move it. You know, so you do have to figure out when it goes into effect and who it goes into effect to, and, you know, is it just new properties, and then we encourage current properties to meet it to the best of their abilities? Or do you require them to meet it? And I think most of them can, although I honestly don't know where everybody's manure pile is, so I couldn't tell you if there are some that might be near a babbling brook. They could be.
See, that's why I wonder, is that more of a conservation issue department
It would
than
be,
the Board
but
of
how,
Health? But it's still
but then the question is
a DPW?
if it's in our regulation, am I supposed to look at where the manure pile is, and then am I supposed to report it? And nobody's gonna want me on their property. You know, am I supposed to, because if it's in our regulation,
Well, it was at the suggestion of the DPW that was added in, right?
I what?
Was that at the suggestion of the DPW that be added in?
That suggestion was that it shouldn't impact publicly owned drainage systems.
But where did that,
Where did that come from, that suggestion?
Kayleen sent me that from some new
and I think the
some new
DPW had,
guidelines that are coming out because of the new stormwater requirements. That she had me add just about that it shouldn't be near water bodies or publicly owned drainage systems.
I don't understand it, if that would be Robin's, your jurisdiction. I don't.
Right, I mean,
It becomes
becomes your reporting jurisdiction
Right.
if it's in here.
if it's in the
And you walk up
regulation.
and you see that compost pile near a
Right.
stream, you've married it.
Right,
And I suggest that maybe it's something the DPW should be working on,
right.
and not the Board of Health.
That's their regulations,
That is going to be so difficult for you.
conservation and DPW.
right, I mean, when these were guidelines, it was fine to suggest
Right,
that, you know, being a good neighbor, being a good animal
Right.
keeper, you don't want to put it there, but when you make it a regulation, am I supposed to
right.
inspect these manure piles and report it if it's near a stream or?
Well, I think the DPW has the responsibility of the stormwater drainage.
And conservation, the
And
babbling
conservation,
brooks. and water,
Right.
wetlands and,
I would feel comfortable without having
That.
that in there.
to be able to strike that.
But I'm only one person on a three-person board.
Right, so if I made,
Well, I don't know.
But-
Public health would have to fall on
But,
the,
well, it would become a
Water.
public,
but it does, and it is saying that safety measures must be used to protect all water supplies, wetlands, water bodies. So in essence, if something like that is occurring on a property and they are
it gets into my water.
using, you know, manure, dumping manure or whatever, then that has to be taken into consideration. But it would be, if you saw that happening, that would be something that,
You saw something like that happen, you can report it to the
right, then you would have to
water
say
department.
to them and then that, or
And they
the
would have to
Conservation Commission,
handle
and they would have to handle it.
right. But
You
is
wouldn't
that,
ignore it.
is that something that you want me to be doing? Because when I do barn inspections, I generally don't inspect where the manure pile is or the manure pile. I inspect to make sure it, you know, is fairly sanitary. I check to make sure the animals are healthy and that they have a, you know, a roof over their head and that they're fed and that they are free of disease. I don't say, where's your manure pile? You know, I mean, the fencing you notice because you're looking at the animals, but the manure, I might not even know where it is because there isn't always somebody there when I'm there.
So,
But the title of the
Yes.
is manure stable
Manure,
yeah.
regulations.
So-
So,
maybe you know, has this always been in the town, you know?
well, there were,
Stable regulations, it's always just been stable regulations.
there were guidelines, but, right, I'm wondering if maybe we should maybe keep these as manure guidelines and then just make
As a
stable
subset,
regulations.
as a subsection, and say, you know, stable regulations, but manure guidelines underneath. What do you think? I don't know.
Well, I think we have to go back to why are we doing this?
Right,
Well, we're doing it in order to comply with state regulations
Regulations.
regarding stables.
Right,
But we've had all these manure complaints,
right.
and you haven't had
Well,
any.
well, all manure complaints.
right,
Well, there's
Well, we've
been
had several, two.
two. Out of how
In one
many
area.
people who own horses and animals and,
right. I mean, you can put, some of this you can put in your stable regulations, like that it should be removed on a regular basis,
It
and
is.
that you shouldn't be stockpiling, you know,
years
tons
of
of it,
Mhm.
and that you should, I mean, a lot of these you can put in the regulations, it's just the part about the wetlands and the water bodies that,
That's different.
and maybe I won't, you know, look for everybody's manure pile, but if there's an issue with the complaint about it, at least we have
Something
something
that you
that,
can use for,
that you could enforce without stepping on some other department's toes. So,
But how do you
yes,
feel, Robin, about leaving that in about the,
about taking the manure
see.
part out, or making the manure part?
impact publicly owned drainage systems?
Well, obviously, we don't want it to, it's just that I don't feel like I can enforce that. Or I feel like it's not up to me to enforce it, or even if I
Let's-
would recognize it, I don't
Yeah, I
even
was
know
gonna
where the
say,
publicly owned drainage systems are.
let's try to think of a scenario where this would occur. I'm trying to think of how this would occur. Somebody has
First
a,
place, she's an animal inspector.
right, a barn, you know,
Barn inspector.
animal inspector.
Animal inspector, barn inspector, whatever.
Well,
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't,
I suppose if somebody had a compost pile, a manure pile, I should say,
Mhm.
and it drained into
It was going across the road
into the culverts,
into a culvert or into
or
a
catch basin that would
Mhm.
drain into the public
Well,
stuff.
she wouldn't even know where the manure pile is, and she wouldn't,
well, I suppose if it's close enough to a culvert, I probably would see it.
Right,
But I'd
yeah.
have to be there on a rainy day, and I don't do inspections on rainy days.
Why not?
Yeah, I don't know, you know, and if that's something that the DPW inspects, the drainage systems and the culverts and the,
Well, I mean, I think if there was a complaint about somebody's manure pile draining into
Yeah.
that, they wouldn't be calling me. They might call the Board of Health, and you would have to refer that to
Mhm.
whoever handles drainage.
that, right, that
systems or-
particular. Right,
Or, I mean, I don't know,
That's what
you'd
I
have to
was-
know who to refer it to.
that's what I was saying, then it would go to that department because that would be in their jurisdiction.
But who would be that department?
In a drainage system, a drainage publicly owned,
DPW.
DPW?
Sewer department would.
sewer department, conservation commission would be all the other, you know, streams,
Yeah.
water, wetlands.
So I think I need to like maybe trim this down to stuff that I feel like we can enforce and, but, you know, maybe leave this line in here that says that, you know, the regulations don't preclude you needing to meet other town regulations, because people should be, you know, if they're building a barn or if they're putting a manure pile, they should find out where they can put it from whoever
Right.
governs that.
And not wait till they get a complaint.
You know, I mean, I know when my friend built a barn and she had to get in touch with the Conservation Commission so she could know where she could put her barn and her fence and,
Mhm.
No,
We
so-
had, we had 2 complaints on that manure pile, we checked it out, and they are moving that trailer every week, sometimes twice a week. Where they move it to, I don't know, but like she said, we have no right to search their property because we don't have a warrant.
right, I mean, you know, I can go inspect the animals, but I'm not sure inspecting the manure pile falls under my jurisdiction.
And fly infestations can be for a lot of different reasons, not just manure piles. Could be
True.
a lot of something going on a mile away that's causing
Right, flies can travel 3 miles, so,
a long ways.
you know, and it's not to say that those flies could have come from there. There's certain times of the year that we do have like microbursts of
Yes,
flies.
lots of flies.
In the fall, it happens. You know, but,
I'm just saying that the manure itself is moved.
right. If you haul it away, I mean, you know, you only have so much there and the fly cycle isn't that quick that hauling it away on a regular basis is a good way to deal with it. But they come from lots of different places. They, you know, there's other farms around or somebody's trash or,
Right.
you know.
Something
I mean,
rotting somewhere and they just keep hatching out and
well,
there's
they
different
hatch-
kinds of flies. You have to like say, okay, that's a fly for, there's
They
millions
hatch
of
pretty
different-
quickly, because I know that, you know, if my husband doesn't go to the dump every week and we have a trash bag in the garage, if you opened it, it's got flies in
Right,
it.
right. Doesn't take them too long.
Yeah,
They have a short life cycle anyway, but it's just part of the cycle.
yeah. I mean, they do bite, which is annoying.
Some do.
But, well,
yeah.
the ones that like
The
horses.
little
bite.
horse flies. Yeah, those flies.
So anyways, that's where I'm at on this, is that
I think one of the most important things is that the townsfolk buy into this. And that we don't pass these regulations and then have a lot of complaints that we didn't know you were going to do this.
right. I mean,
So that's why I think you should,
I think there's more issues with the manure part of it than with the stable part of it, because the stable part of it is really common sense and it's stuff that kind of falls under animal inspecting anyways. So maybe if we made it stable regulations and
Subtitle of
and
manure
had separate
guidelines
manure
under that.
guidelines with
I,
more of a
I
suggested
would think that,
nature.
I'd go with the stable regulations and a manure guideline
Right, right.
myself. Because
Yeah, because,
I
Switch.
think that's
make
more
regulations on
palatable.
manure,
Right. And
and she has to go looking for manure piles, and the people don't want her up there in their fields, they can just say no. And she can't do nothing about it.
plus, Robin, you know, you could be hauling way out there, you know, if somebody's got 200
well, I
acres,
mean-
it's like, we're,
As an animal inspector, they have to
Oh.
let me on the property to inspect the
Mhm.
animals, but they don't have to let me
way out.
inspect a manure pile.
Right.
So they have to let me inspect where the animal lives and how
Right.
they're kept, but not
Right.
necessarily a manure pile.
And I think you have a very good working relationship with the people.
I
who
think I have a
own-
good
and
relationship with
You do,
most,
we've never had any complaints, and
Right.
you know,
you don't want to push so
most
much.
people are
that-
pretty reasonable, and, you know, I don't want to make enemies of them because
Pushing the
I,
buttons and she won't have a good relationship.
That's right.
yeah.
That's right.
If you make it too strict, then, you know,
Right.
they're gonna hate seeing me
So
come.
why don't
Then
we
it's
fall back?
over-regulation. The
Why don't we
regulations,
fall back to the bond regulations and the manure
Guidelines.
yes,
guidelines.
stable regulations and manure guidelines.
Okay, yeah, we'll do it more like that, because,
That would work for you?
yeah, let me rewrite a few things and give it another shot.
Okay. Robin, thanks for all your hard work on this.
Yes, you've worked very hard.
And,
But I'd
How
like
much,
to have it something that, you know,
how much time you need for that?
Yeah,
probably not that long.
Put that back together.
When do you want to,
when would you like
It's
to
up to you.
address it again? How long do you think?
when is your,
Give yourself some time,
probably, not, you meet every 2 weeks?
Mm-hmm.
Can we maybe have a month, and that way I can run it by the
Yes,
various boards again?
Mm-hmm.
All right.
So,
How about,
like,
well, the chairman can tell you.
well, we have 2 meetings in June. We have the 6th and the 20th, so like the latter part of June, or,
Okay, so like
Well-
June 20th?
yes, because then our next meeting is the 4th of July.
Well, we won't meet on
I
the
know,
fourth.
I'm just saying.
We'll probably be
says.
changing that.
Oh,
You're not
yes.
gonna be here on the 4th of
But
July?
no.
We'll probably change
So
that.
how about the 20th of June?
Yeah, if we plan for the 20th, then I can really celebrate Independence Day.
There you go. Sounds good.
just one more thing, Robin, on the second paragraph, it says, "These regulations are limited." I would put Pepro BOH regulations are limited, so there's no ambiguity as to what these pertain to.
Oh. Okay.
And that the "these" on the third paragraph is fine, because it's a new paragraph.
Yeah, I just,
I know what
before
you're
I
saying,
exclude
but,
commercial operations, I do want to find out how I can tell the difference. Because there's quite a few hobby farms that may or may not be commercial
that's going to be the loophole.
in town, so I don't know how to tell the difference.
Because it can be a pretty big farm and still be a hobby farm,
Yeah,
or a gentleman's farm, whatever the terminology is.
yeah,
that we
so,
use today.
you know,
Mhm.
yeah.
We don't need a
And there's a,
motion to change that, do we?
I don't think so, because we have to readdress it, but we're just gonna readdress it and you're gonna be bringing us back an updated, and
yeah,
then we can make.
hopefully, you know, my goal will be to have it ready to vote, so I'll
Well-
get something to you before then, so you can look
Then-
at it, and if you want to give me any input, and I'll get it to the Pepper Horse owners and the Agricultural Commission, and,
Well, maybe we'll make a motion then to change, to make the adjustments and then readdress this to be determined later for a vote on June the 20th. So can I get a motion
Okay.
to
I make
readdress?
a motion to readjust the manure stable regulations to readjust it to stable regulations and manure guidelines.
Do I have a second
I'll
on that?
second it.
So I have a first and a second, and we will readdress this on June the 20th and possibly vote then. And all those in favor say
Aye.
aye. Thanks, Robin.
thank you.
Thank you again for all your hard work.
Oh,
And
thanks. Have a good night.
You too.
Oh,
You
I
too.
want
Hopefully I can make everybody else as happy.
to ask you a question before you leave.
enjoy your nice
Horses.
weather, huh?
Pardon me.
There's a place in town where these past couple of weeks have been walking in solid mud all day.
Okay.
Does that hurt their hoofs?
It makes them soft and they can get thrush, just like a fungus.
Along Hill Street there.
Although, I mean, spring is traditionally pretty muddy in paddocks.
My wife's been concerned about 3 horses walking in the mud all day long
Okay.
at this one place.
Is that always wet though, or is it kind of intermittently wet?
That's mud.
It's mud all the
Right
time?
downhill,
Yeah,
you know
yeah,
what I
I
mean.
do, but I'm trying to think if that's wet all the time or if it's just certain parts of it.
Well, if you want to let me know where it is, then I can go.
Well, it's probably all dry now. We had one day of
Or heavy
hot
rain.
sun, so it's dry.
Yeah. I mean, as long as they have like a place where they can get out of the mud, like
They do, but
A
they don't
shed?
put them in it. They put them in that mud every day.
yeah, but at night are they in a stall?
They're in the
There's a
barn.
There's a barn.
Yeah.
They go in the barn at
'Cause
night.
there's times when it's muddy.
Oh. Okay.
You don't want them in there forever, but if they go, if there's a month of mud season.
Right.
That's what it
It's
is.
Springtime, because we have
It
had a lot, I
happens.
think, what did we get over the weekend? Three something
My wife's
inches?
been concerned about those poor horses in the mud all
Yeah.
month.
Well, you do want a certain amount of moisture for their feet. You just don't want to overdo it. You kind of have to get
Yeah.
that
I'll
balance.
tell her what you
Mhm.
said.
Because there is a little bit of high ground there, up near the barn,
Yeah.
and that doesn't get muddy.
Yeah, they
Have to
shouldn't
take
be
it.
in mud 24/7, but as
Mhm.
long as they should have a place they can get out of the mud for at least
Okay.
part of the day so their feet can dry out.
We're on the, thanks.
Okay.
Thanks, Rob.
Take care.
Have a good night, Robin. Thank you.
Okay. So, health agent comments, not here tonight.
She's not here.
She's not here tonight. So,
She left some stuff
she
though.
But I
has
do
a permit for a special permit request
Here we are. 3 James.
for 3 James Circle.
Yes. She left some comments and she wants to, oh, okay. Here's the comments, right here.
Okay.
She wants to know if you agree with them.
You only have one copy.
Yes. I just got this
Okay.
when it came in.
Do you want me to read this here? Or do
Sure,
wanna
you can
that?
read it.
Okay. So, this is a memo dated 5/16/17 to the planning board from Kayleen Gendron, our registered sanitarian, for 3 James Circle. Comments. We, Pepperell Board of Health, are in receipt of plans for the above referenced property, memo dated 5/9/17. Please see the comments, concerns below for the above referenced project. Number 1, property is currently served by private septic system. A, applicant shall submit proof from the Pepperell Sewer Department of an accepted application for a tie-in to municipal sewer system and Board of Health abandonment form. And subsection I, if sewer is unavailable, full compliance with 310 CMR 15, the State Environmental Code Title 5 is required. We appreciate the opportunity to comment, and if you have any questions, please contact me directly at the office. So, she's requesting that they are within the compliance, so basically that's all she is asking right now. So they have to show proof of
So if they're in,
abandonment, an abandonment form, or that they have tied in.
so are they going to have to tie in because they're changing from 1 family to 2 family?
Or showing if their sewer system is in compliance for that size of dwelling.
Okay.
Is that what she's requesting us to? Mm-hmm.
Well, it's currently served by a private system,
Mm-hmm. Private septic,
a private septic, so
right,
she is saying
that they have to show.
if they have public sewer going by, that they have to tie in.
An accepted application for tie-in to a municipal sewer system and Board of Health abandonment form to abandon. But if the sewer is unavailable, they have to be in compliance with Title V. So it's one or the other.
Right, they may not have a lateral in front, so they may not be able to connect. I don't know,
Right.
you know,
Do we know?
Kayleen
Yeah,
knows
we.
that. I don't
she
know.
doesn't.
If they have the lateral, we can find out. It's easy enough, just
Okay.
to ask DPW if they have a lateral in front of it,
Right.
so.
So we can't really. She's just asking us for.
And if it doesn't,
Does
then the abandonment form.
So she sent this
We have
letter. She sent this to the planning board, and these were her comments to the planning board.
Yes, that's what she wants,
So-
to go to the yeah,
Right, and
to the
that's-
planning board.
So at
Has she
this,
sent them at this point?
No, no,
no. So I think that's,
those
I
are
just
her
send that-
concern, if you have
I'll just send that off
anything
to the planning board.
right, can't she, yeah.
So,
So-
those are okay, the way
Those,
they
these are okay for
Okay.
comments. What do we
That's all right.
need to make a? She can just send those. I don't see anything
Okay.
else that really needs to be addressed on that.
All right.
Okay.
All right, good.
Okay, so we have some permits licenses here
Yes, we do.
for 21 Emerson Circle, Lot 52, a new system.
Sign, vote.
Clear for her, she leaves directions.
There we
Yes.
go.
So you, oh, you need a motion.
Yes, I need a motion to accept the,
I'll make a motion to accept the permit for 21 Emerson Circle, Lot 52,
new
for
system.
a new system.
Okay.
Second.
Do I hear a second? All
I'll
those in
second.
favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Aye.
Okay.
That. And
See the first line there.
and then we have a permit or license for an upgrade for 16 Celestial Way,
Yep,
for an upgrade.
here we go. It's 16 South Street.
Okay, do I have a motion to accept the upgrade for 16 Celestial Way?
I make a motion that we accept the upgrade for 16 Celestial Way.
Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second and a motion, and all those in favor?
Aye.
Say aye. Okay.
There's a fee that's due with that, so.
With the upgrade?
Yes.
Do you-
Okay.
Do you want that motion to be,
Well, she'll call them,
Contingent?
this is, will not be released until they're
Okay.
paid.
Until they
That's
pay
how-
the fee.
Mhm.
Okay, and then we have 17 Lawrence Street, Lot 1, a new well.
Okay. Here's the
Permit.
take your time, Sandy,
Yeah, no
multiple
troubles.
things there.
right there, and then this one says, check one, chair sign. I recommend to approve the well.
So she's made a recommendation to approve the well.
Yes,
She
if you'd
doesn't
like
see
to
any,
Look at it.
doesn't see any reason why we shouldn't, right? So do I have a motion to accept? Phil, do you want to read this over first here?
17 Lawrence Street, Lot 1, new well.
Want to take a look at the,
Now,
alrighty. Just kind of glancing over Jimmy's shoulder, so.
I make a motion.
Do I have a motion to accept the well, new well at 17 Lawrence Street, Lot 1?
I'll second the motion.
All those in favor, say aye.
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 Okay. That's it. Sandra, there you go.
Oh, I'm
Thank
sorry.
you. You only needed my signature, right?
Yes.
Okay. Do we have any open discussion here that we'd like to talk about?
On that future meeting date. 6/6/17.
6/6.
I have surgery that day.
Oh, okay,
As a possibility. I won't be here.
okay,
But it's at 8:30 in the morning. I might be here.
okay. Right by your,
Take care.
Huh?
I said, take care.
Well, I might be here. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
it's just,
something simple.
I might have a patch over my eye, but I'll be here.
Knowing you, you'll get here if you can, but it's understandable if you
You
don't.
can, yeah, it's okay.
Outside of that, I don't have any discussion.
Anything else?
No?
Sandra, do you have anything for us? Nothing?
No?
Okay. Okay, so the future meeting date will be 6/6/17, and if you can make it, that's great. Good luck with your, it'd be perfect then, perfect on your eyes, right?
Oh, yeah.
Okay then, I call the meeting adjourned this evening at 8:58.